And I asked him, I said, man, I said, how long you been down? He said, man, I've been down since 80 something. I said, how much time they give you? They said, they gave me 5 years. I said, how is you still here? He said, I killed the man and they gave me life. I said, was it worth it? He said, no, but what can I do? I got to do the time. I said, wow.
Most people know me as Wall Street Real, but for the last 15 years, 14 years, 9 months, 19 days to be exact, the government knew me as MA43083-039. You're not tuned into My Fair Vacation. What up, though? It's your boy Wall Street Real. You're not tuned into another episode of My Fair Vacation. Today, for me, is a very special episode because I got my man all the way from Milwaukee, King Nap, Ray Mendoza in the building. What up, though, Big Nap?
Man, you know what? It's an honor and pleasure to be here, man. When I saw that y'all was doing a book signing, I said, man, I got to pop up on these guys, man, because I haven't seen them in so long. And I said, it'll be a blessing for me and a blessing for them for us to reunite on the outside like we was united on the inside. So I made it a point to get here and be and support y'all in y'all book signing.
That's love, man. And it's like a very impromptu thing. Like this wasn't planned or nothing. I seen my man come through the door. My face lit up like a kid on Christmas. So that's why I say this is a very special episode for me because, you know, most of the guys you see on my show, on the couch, on My Fair Vacation is dudes I was actually behind the wall with. And it's like, it means something to me to be out here doing something positive with these brothers on the outside. So, you know, again, I got my man King Nap in the building. So, you know, we're going to kick this episode off as usual. Is how much time did you eventually do in the feds?
I ended up doing 17 years and 9 months.
What were you indicted for?
I was indicted. What I had 3 counts: conspiracy to commit RICO, violation of the RICO Act, and a $10 million drug conspiracy.
$10 million drug conspiracy. I'm gonna ask you this question before we even get into anything. $10 million drug conspiracy, 17 years. Was it worth it?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So, to all the young guys out there, to the youth that think that this life is glamorized, that think the streets is the way out, it's not. Because even with $10 million, $10 million don't add up to 17 years. If you break that $10 million down in 17 years, minus taxes, you probably getting paid the same wages as somebody getting paid at McDonald's.
Now, mind you, that $10 million is between 34 people. That wasn't just me. It was 34 of us on the case. And that's what I don't know where they got that number from, but that was their number. That was the federal government's number, $10 million.
Yeah, we both know the government exaggerates shit because let them tell it, I got charged for selling 400 and something thousand pounds of marijuana.
Right.
You know how much money I ever had off 400,000 pounds of marijuana?
Right. Exactly.
But nevertheless, you know, because we're not here to glamorize the game. We're here to deter the young guys from following our footsteps. That's the purpose of My Fair Vacation. So, on your fair vacation, what was your first stop?
My first stop was, I fought my case out of MCC Chicago.
The building.
The building.
We just spoke about that on an episode with T-Mac. The building, the infamous building.
I was in the building for about 27 months. And then I went back to the county jail to get sentenced. And once I got sentenced, my first stop was FCI Cumberland, Maryland.
FCI Cumberland, Maryland. Now here we go again with the DC backyard.
DC backyard, Baltimore backyard, Philadelphia backyard, Richmond, Virginia backyard. It was probably 7 of us from the Midwest.
So prior to you going to FCI Cumberland, had you ever done any time before?
Never in my life was I ever incarcerated.
So what was your first experience or your first memory of FCI Cumberland?
I seen a guy get stabbed like 2 weeks into my bed.
Explain that a little bit. What happened?
I don't know what led up to the stabbing. I just know that a guy walked past me and said, "Pardon me," and I moved out the way, and he just commenced to stabbing the dude that was standing in front of me.
How did you take that?
I froze. That was the first time I ever seen anything like that. I've been involved with violence on the streets, but in the joint, that was like my first experience seeing somebody actually getting a knife put in them, and I was in shock. So the guys that I had already been in tune with, seeing me in the vicinity of what was going on, everybody else was gone. I'm the only one standing there with the dude that got stabbed because the guy that stabbed him left. We the only two standing there, and he's holding the hose where he's leaking. And the guys came and grabbed me and said, "Man, come on, man, what are you doing?" I said, "Man, I don't know. I didn't know what to do."
But that's one thing about being in prison and being in those type of situations. It's like a see and don't see. You got to mind your
Right,
business, or you could be the next victim of being stabbed. You know what I mean?
right,
Because there's a lot of nosy people that get they issue for being in other people's business.
absolutely.
And I actually got into a situation like that myself one time, but it really was like a crazy situation because I'm from Michigan. You know the Michigan car thing. So we got a homie in. He's in the Michigan car. We just had the Michigan picnic or whatever, but you're also a gangbanger. You're also a GD. So me and my baby mama cousin, we see the GD dudes down there. I don't know, they violating dude or whatever, but they doing something to our homie. So we try to come to his aid and assistance, and he like, no, I'm straight, I'm straight, I'm straight. But now the GDs feel we not minding our business and we in their business. So now it's the GDs called us here putting the green light on me and my man. So it's like now we got knives and you know what I mean, but
Right,
we ain't getting to that situation. So that was your first experience at FCI Cumberland, seeing somebody get stabbed.
right.
But besides that, what was the vibe like at FCI Cumberland? Was it like a violent vibe, a laid back vibe,
It,
a
it
chill
was
vibe?
it was there was a lot of violence. There was a lot of violence because um at that particular institution, uh, you know, me being a Mexican descent and being a member of the Latin Kings, you know, when I came off the bus, all the Mexicans rushed me right away. Like, who you run with? Who you? What are you? And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know who you are. Like, what are you talking about? Right? And so the Kings that was there, they knew I was there because I had to go to the hole first.
To
I had to
get
get a
cleared.
captain's review. Right? So I had to get cleared by the captain to come out to the compound. So the guys already knew because I sent word and told them, man, come get me out the hole, man. So they pushed and pushed and pushed. Finally, about 3.5 weeks later, I got out the hole. And as I'm walking down the compound, the Mexicans are riding on me. They're like, "Oh, where you from?" And I remember when I got off the bus, the police told me, "Don't tell nobody you from Texas." So I'm the type of person that you don't tell me what not to do, because I'm gonna do it. So when they drove on me, like, "Where you from?" I said, "I'm from Texas." And their eyes got big, like, "We got one." But it just so happened that the guys were coming to my rescue because they was getting ready to take off. And these are little guys, you know what I mean? They midgets. So I was ready for whatever. You know what I mean? I got hands, you know what I'm saying? But um, they was getting ready to pull a move on me. But I see it, but then I see the guys coming. I don't know who they are, but I'm like, oh, nah, it's about 6 of them. I said, man, this might hurt, right? But then they came and drove on the Mexican, like, he one of us. And they're like, oh no, he said he was from Texas. He was like, man, don't matter where he from, he one of us. So they like, all right, cool. So they like, you from Texas? I said, well, I was born in Texas, but I'm really from Milwaukee. But the police told me not to say I was from Texas, so that's the first thing I said because I don't believe in what the police say.
And that's just a clear example of prison politics. And to all my
Right,
viewers, y'all might not never understand this, or hopefully you never have to go through it to understand this, but prison politics is a motherfucker because like within the prison system, you got your administration, but usually us inmates, or I like to call us convicts because inmates are somebody that's a whole different story. But us convicts, we govern ourselves.
right,
And in certain instances, the politics are needed to
right,
prevent the bullshit.
right,
But in a lot of instances, the politics go too far
right,
because the biggest party, when we talking politics, the biggest party, which is the biggest car, they sometimes abuse their power.
right.
So was any abuse of power by you being from Milwaukee or the Midwest or the Latin Kings and y'all being the minority there? Was anything like that going on?
Nah, because one thing about me, I'm the type of person I don't draw off numbers, right? So I don't care if you got 500 people with you. I know Out of them 500, you might got 25 that's really gonna go hard. The people I got with me, I might got 12 people with me. I know out of them 12, I might got 8 that's gonna go hard with me. I know what I can do. I know out of them 25, at least 7 of them coming with me. I'm depending on them to get rid of the rest of them. So I don't draw for numbers. I've never been a numbers kind of guy, right? But at the same time, you got to be mindful of the fact that you're outnumbered, and you might have to work the politics to get out of some bullshit so that nobody gets hurt. So my whole because every compound that I went to, the nature of my case and my status on my case and my status in my town, everywhere I went, they automatically gave me the keys to the compound. The guys did. Like, man, this your compound. So I told the guys, if it ain't worth somebody losing their life, walk away.
But it take a thinker to be that type of position.
Right.
Because later on when I became the elder statesman at prisons I've been at doing the Michigan car, I was given that position. Really forced that position because I can think. Because you can't have a dude that don't got no sense driving y'all car because y'all are always ended up in some bullshit. And
you end up being crashed dummies.
That bullshit can end up to somebody losing their life.
Right.
Or somebody having to take a life and end up with life in prison.
Right.
Because I seen that. A dude with 7 years, he got a battery put in his back to go do something and ended up killing somebody in prison and ended up getting life off 7 years.
When I was in USP McQuarrie, there was a guy from Chicago who came in. He came in the late 80s with a 5-year bid. Turned that 5 years into a life sentence because he stabbed a dude and killed him. He got a life sentence. Now, mind you, this was 2004 when I bumped into him. So he went from a youngster, early mid-20s, to now he looked like he was in his 90s from doing all his time. And I asked him, I said, man, how long you been down? He said, man, I've been down since 80-something. I said, how much time they give you? He said, they gave me 5 years. I said, how is you still here? He said, I killed the man and they gave me life. I said, was it worth it? He said, no, but what can I do? I got to do the time. I said, wow.
But again, that's an example of it takes somebody that can think to lead these cars. And it take a man that can think to navigate through prison anyway, because we all deal with situations. You might get off the phone, have a bad call with your girl. You might have a bad call with your kids. You might lose a family member, but you got to be a thinker to navigate that, to not let that trickle off into you getting yourself into a situation that you can't get out of with inside the prison.
Right.
Over something you can't really even control.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard because things happen at home that normally you can somewhat control the outcome of it. And being incarcerated, you have zero control over nothing. You have zero control over what happened to your mama. You have zero control what happened to your daddy. You got zero control what happened to your brothers, your sisters, your nieces, your nephews, and especially your own kids, right? So when you get off the phone and you heard some bad news, anything can trigger you. Anything, somebody can just slightly bump you, and you feel like he disrespected you. Now you want to take off on him.
And because you're really dealing off the emotions of that phone call.
Off the phone call.
And I got myself into a situation like that one time. Like, I'll never forget it. This one, it was the inauguration. It's Friday night. I got a female coming to see me Saturday morning. She's actually already at the hotel room. But Saturday morning, 5:50, they come sliding the note under the door to all the inmates telling us that the jail is on lockdown now. No visitors allowed. But she's already up here. So it's a wasted trip, wasted money, wasted rental car, all that. So I'm using the dude's phone because I'm on restriction. You know, I stayed in some trouble, so I don't got my own phone. I got to use the dude's phone. So it's 6 in the morning. He calling my girl. She ain't answering the phone. But it ain't like I know she outside with some dude or something. I know where she at. So he make a slick comment like, oh, she out there with a nigga or whatever. But I'm using the emotion off. She get on the phone when she finally answers. She mad. She crying. She came up here for nothing. So I go off the phone and I beat the dude up. You know what I'm saying? But that could have turned out bad for me. He could have beat me up. He could have stabbed me. But I let my emotions of that phone call control my situation. And it took me some self-reflection like, damn, that was a bad move, real. You know what I mean? Because that could have ended up bad.
I was I was fortunate. I was fortunate enough to be in the building with my chief, right? And I ended up going to the hole, and they put me in the cell right next to him. And so he gave me a lot of game. The man been locked up since 1969, so he got all the prison game. He know how to navigate through prison. So he'd tell me like, "Yo, listen, don't let your emotions dictate what you do or how you move on the compound. Whatever happens at home, leave it at home. You got to live in the present in the
But
prison.
that's hard to do for some
It's hard.
guys.
It is hard to do. It was hard to do for me, but I made a conscious effort because he told me, he said, man, listen, every night when you lay down in your rack, before you fall asleep, lay there and reflect on what happened that day. And whatever situation you got yourself into, ask yourself, how could I have done that a different way so the outcome would be better? And I adopted that. I adopted that method from the very beginning. I wasn't even sentenced yet. I wasn't even convicted yet. I was fighting my case. And we was gangbangers. And he told me, he said, man, listen, your fight ain't against all them other dudes. All y'all, however you twist your fingers, all y'all fight is against the federal government.
And that's something me and T-Mac spoke on our episode. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand the gravity of that, the severity of that. It's your name on the indictment versus the United States of
The
America.
whole 50 states.
And they got all the resources in the world against all the resources. Okay, you might have some money. You might got this lawyer, but this lawyer ain't really your lawyer because at the end of the day, he friends with the prosecutor. He friends with the judge. So it's you against the United States of America.
My lawyer, when they assigned me my judge, my lawyer said, oh, he's good. We're good. I know him. That's my friend. We play golf together. And I still got 20 years.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they getting paid regardless. And who they gonna appease? They friend or you?
Right.
They don't want to cause no rift between their friend for really properly defending you.
Exactly.
You might even got a strong case to be defended, but this they friend.
Yep.
But that's a whole nother episode that I'm gonna break down on one of these episodes that we got somebody on my couch about the United States government and all the tricks they play and all the dirty tactics they use to convict us, because it's a reason they got a 98% conviction rate.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of innocent men in prison because of the government chose to get an informant, a rat, a snitch, whatever you want to call it, and they coached them to lie on you just to convict you.
Yeah.
And like I always like to use this analogy. Look at John Gotti. Sammy Gravano admitted to committing 19 murders, but he got 5 years just for them to convict John Gotti.
And John Gotti died in prison.
But they let this man kill 19 people, admitted to killing 19 people.
Right.
And they knew he did it just to convict one man. But so how long did you stay at FCI?
Cumberland.
How long did you stay at FCI Cumberland?
I got there March of 2001. I left August of 2004. I went to USP McQuarrie. From August of 2004 to May of 2006, I was on the compound. I went to the hole, and then I left there in February 2007. I went to USP Atwater.
Well, hold on. You went from Cumberland to a pen.
I went from a medium to a pen.
What happened?
Shit happens. Shit happens.
I mean, I know how that go. I started at a low, went to a medium, went back to a low, made it all the way down to a camp, and eventually ended up coming home from a medium. So I'm understanding if shit happened, but if I reflect on my time, I put myself in all those situations.
Yeah. So because it was just a bunch of disagreements, a bunch of misunderstandings, a bunch of me being fresh in the system, having this chip on my shoulder, wanting to prove that I'm not a punk, I'm not soft. You know what I'm saying? I end up going from a medium to a maximum. Then when I got to the maximum again, I got the compound again, and there was a big group demonstration throughout the whole compound. All the heads of all the different cars got together, and we said we not going to lunch because of some shit that was going on in the prison, the institution politics. And so they locked the whole joint down, and they came and got all the heads from all the different cars, all the gang members, all the gang leaders, and all that. We all ended up going to the hole, got put on investigation, did 9 months in that hole. They told me the warden came to my room personally and said, I don't have enough evidence to convict you of a group demonstration. He said, but I got enough to get rid of you and get you off my compound. Now, mind you, I had low points.
But you
I
finna
had
go
low
from low
points.
to yeah.
I had low points in the medium. And they put a management variable on me, sent me to a max. I had low points in the max, went to the hole. My points dropped even more. I couldn't get camp points, but my points were so low that I was at the bottom rung of the low scale, and they sent me to another penitentiary all the way out in California.
So you went from Macquarie to Atwater.
I went from Aquaria to Adwater.
Now, granted, I never done no time on the West Coast, but I remember me and you had conversations about that back in our time together. And Jay Joker, and on Jay Joker's episode, he spoke on doing time on the West Coast politics. Because if you got the whole Federal Bureau of Prison as one, the West Coast politics is totally different.
Way different. The West Coast, the federal prisons on the West Coast draw off of the concept of the California state system. And the California state system is all race relations. It's separated by race. All the blacks move together. All the Spanish people move together. All the whites move together. All the natives and the islanders, all them move together. It just so happens that we're unique as Latin Kings. We're unique in the system because we have black members, we have white members, we have Arabs, we have Asians, we have natives, we have Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans. We have everybody.
And that's what I was going to ask you because of your ethnic descent. How did you navigate that out there with race being the main thing?
So when I got there and I got cleared, my paperwork got cleared, and they gave me the keys to the car. I sat down with the heads of all the different cars, and I let them know if there's ever a race war on this compound between black and white, black and Mexican, whatever, the Latin Kings are going to stand idle. And they said, why is that? I said, because I can't ask a black Latin King to go to war with me and kill another black man. We did that enough on the streets. I can't ask you to do it in the joint. And I'm not going to align myself with the black gangs and ask my Mexican brothers and my Puerto Rican brothers to kill Mexicans that we at war with. So I told everybody, listen, if it happens, we're going to stand idle. Whoever move on us, we're going to move back. But we don't got nothing to do with a race war. Because I can't in good conscience ask a Native American to kill another Native American because we at war with them or they're at war with the Spanish people. We're not going to do that.
But as far as respect, that says a lot about you because you got some dudes that's not qualified, and we're gonna speak on prison politics because this is my favorite vacation. But you got some dudes that are not qualified to even hold that position or even call that shot. Because that's the thing with the shot caller. Like I said, you got to be a thinker. And right. For one, besides being a thinker, you got to be respected. Because you could be a dude that we don't respect. We look at it soft, and you try to call the shot, and nobody's going for it. In a situation like that, when there's races involved, for you to say that my group is standing idle on that, you had to be well respected for somebody to even respect that call.
Well, that's a fact. But at the same time, I didn't care if they respected it or not. I stand on what I stand on. Whether you like it or not, whether you respect it or not, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And they're going to do what I tell them to do. Because there's repercussions for them not doing what I say. Right? And so, not to say that, they feared me or anything like that. But at the same time, I like living. I had an out date. And everybody that was with me, except for my co-defendant, had an out date. So my goal is to get everybody home on their out date. I don't want you to be here no longer than you need to be because this is not a place for a man to be.
Fuck no.
Right? So I hated prison that much that I made it a point to make sure that the brothers that were under my charge made it home as soon as possible, if not sooner. Right? And the only thing that I had to hope for me was the laws to change. Never happened. So I maxed my bid out. I did the 17 years and 9 months on mine. I lost a lot of good time. I should have been home in 2014. But
And reflecting on that, because this something I went through. You know what I mean? I was lucky enough because technically I didn't supposed to come home from prison until 2028. But by Donald Trump changing the law, the First Step Act, which changed the crack law, because I went under the old crack law, which
right,
is if I
101.
got caught with 1 gram of crack cocaine and you got caught with 100 grams of powder cocaine, we got the same time,
Right.
which was a law that was basically designed for us,
For black
the
and
blacks
brown.
and browns. You
For
know what I
black and
mean? It
brown,
was
they did a lot of time.
a racial
Yeah,
disparity law. So
absolutely.
Donald Trump changed that, and he still didn't make it equal. He made it 18-1, but that eventually knocked some time off my sentence. So that's why I'm here today. But I said all that to say this: when the time got wound down, when I was on my way home, I should have been home 8-9 months before I came home, but I lost good time.
Right.
So that shit, when in the moment you don't think about it, but at the end of the day, you be like, damn, I could have been home doing all this dumb shit in here.
Yeah.
And my biggest vice was I had violent situations. You actually witnessed one of them. We'll get into that. But my biggest vice was cell phones in jail.
Right.
But I say this. I meet a lot of people right now and they be like, damn, you don't act like you've been in jail for 15 years. You just came home. But it's because of cell phones. If I didn't have a chance to have cell phones the majority of my bit, I'd be lost. And I think that's the difference with you see dudes like me. You see dudes like T-Mac. You see dudes like Joker. You see dudes such as yourself. And a person couldn't tell that we've been in prison because we played with phones and got adjusted. And that was my biggest fear. Besides, my family, losing my family, but I didn't want to come home and be behind. So I took that chance every time to play with that phone and just figure out what was going on.
And that's the difference between me and you because when I came in, it wasn't hardly no cell phones.
Exactly.
I went in the system in 1998.
Yeah, cell phones
right?
didn't really come into play till
the most exclusive phone was the church, right? So when I seen the brothers with the phones in the joint, I was like, what is that? How you work that? Man, here, man, call this number. I didn't know how to move with them. And I remember I had one. And you always had mine because I didn't know how to work it. I didn't care about it, right? So when I got out, I called my brother the night before I went home. And he said, listen, your first stop is in Memphis. He said, when you get on the bus, call me. I'll tell you what to do. I'm like, all right, cool. I said, how the hell am I going to call you? He said, man, tell somebody to let you use a cell phone. I said, man, I got no money for no cell phone. He was like, man, just ask somebody to use the phone. So the whole bus was full. It was a white boy sitting there. I sat down next to the white dude. He on the phone. And when he hung up, I said, say, man, I said, how much you charge me to make a long distance phone call to Milwaukee? He said, a what? I said, a long distance. My brother's phone is from Milwaukee. So I know, they charge you roaming charges and all that. He's like, what are you talking about? And I said, man, can I use the phone? How much you charge me to use the phone? He's like, I ain't gonna charge you nothing. He just handed me the phone. So when he gave me the phone, I opened it, and this is what I saw, a black screen. I said, do it work? He said, yeah, you gotta push the button. I said, what button, man? So he pushed the button on the side. And then he put it on the phone, right? He put it on the phone and put it on the keypad. So I dialed my brother's number. My brother answered, yo, I'm screaming. And the phone said, what the fuck is wrong with you? I said, can you hear me? He said, yeah, man, you on the phone. I said, oh, I'm on the bus. He said, man, listen, when you get to Memphis, he said, get off the bus. Now, mind you, I'm crazy institutionalized. Like dumb institutionalized. Like I'm looking for police everywhere I go, right? So we get to Memphis, I get off the bus, and I walk towards the doors to go into the terminal, into where you get the tickets and all that, to go through and go into the parking lot. It's police is right there at the door. So I'm walking. When I bend the corner to go by the door, the police right there. I said, "Oh shit!" I turn around and go back. I said, "Damn, how am I gonna get through here?" Because I'm thinking they COs. I gotta have permission to go through the door. I was supposed to get off that bus, walk down the way, get on another bus to go home. So I go back. I walk. I'm in the corner. He's still there. I turn around and come back. I said, "God damn, man, how the fuck am I gonna get out of here?"
But see, with all that being said, that's like a crucial point that me myself, I'm trying to figure out how to reach back into the system to get that changed a little bit because they're not preparing us to come home to society.
Nah, it's when you're in prison in the federal system and the state systems, you're in a warehouse. You're a commodity. You're something that they get money from, right? So you're worth more to them in there
Then out.
than out.
But it's like a dog and pony show because they preach recidivism.
Right.
Recidivism. How can we stop recidivism? Y'all not preparing us with the proper tools to come out here and be productive in society. It's something simple as a cell phone.
Right.
Learning how to work a cell phone. Everything is on the cell phone. When I got out, I had to go on Indeed to apply for a job. But luckily, I played with enough cell phones in prison that I knew how to go on Indeed and apply for a job.
Now,
but a lot of dudes don't know how to do that because they're not teaching this in these prisons.
Now, when I went to the halfway house, we wasn't allowed to have cell phones with the internet on it. So I had
the whole world revolves around the internet. We're not talking about social media.
Right.
We're talking about the whole world revolves around the internet right now.
They wouldn't allow us to have phones with the internet on them.
But that's
of course,
just,
I had it.
That's just another trick, another tactic that the government used to keep us down, to keep us in these prisons. So my thing is, you know, as such as like the brother Hakeem had the course that he brought back into the prisons. I'm trying to think of myself how to create a course to teach brothers how to navigate cell phones because it would be that much more productive in society.
I think right now that's not really the only way that's necessary is for guys that's been locked up since the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But you know, you still got those type of dudes in prison.
Right.
Because you know the majority of the dudes in now have came in the era of cell phones.
Right. And the cell phones are so prevalent in the system right now that even dudes that been down in the 90s know what's going. They know how to work it. You know what I'm saying? So I think the more necessity, what's needed more in the system is financial literacy.
Yes, I 100% agree with you.
How to look for a job, how to interview for the job, how to dress for the interview for the job, and then how to keep the job. That's what's needed in there.
And I agree with you 100%. And you know, you got some institutions that do teach the credit classes, and a lot of dudes don't grasp to that and take those classes. But I'm a testament right now that helped me that much more getting out of prison. Granted, I came home and I've been living off my credit, and that's how I've been staying afloat. But I came home with damn near 800 credit score. That gave me all the tools that I needed to acquire a car, a phone, housing, everything, because you can't do nothing without credit. But this is not something the institution is teaching. This is something brothers like me and you, like Matt, like Joker. These are something that we teaching ourselves among each other. But this need to be something that the prisons is teaching.
Right. So one thing I did do before I got released, I set goals for myself. Right. I had a 5-year goal and a 10-year goal. My 5-year goal was within 5 years of my release, I'm gonna buy me a car off the lot. It took me 2.5 years. My 10-year goal was to purchase me a house. It took me 6 years. I don't pay rent right now. I pay a mortgage, right? And I got a car note, and I pay all my insurances and all that. But I say that to say, if you put your mind to it, if you have these goals, you can achieve whatever you want to. And there's nothing that the government can do to stop you.
But that kind of comes from the mindset you have from in there. I'm sure you had that mindset in there a little bit instead of just being pushed out into the world, into desperation.
What happened with me was it took me, remember I did 17 years and 9 months. It took me 14 years to realize I had to change my thinking. I had to refocus on what was important for me in my life, right? And so at year 14, in the hole, I said, man, this shit got to stop. At some point, I got to do something to prepare myself to go home because at that point, I wasn't ever looking at my good time. I didn't care about my good time. My focus was my max date, which was 2018, right? Which was the whole 20 years. I said, I got 4 years left. I got to get myself together to go home and be productive for me and my babies. I left I left to the halfway house June 1st of 2015. I met my oldest daughter in January of 2015. I met her. You understand what that means? And when I met her, I don't know if you remember this, when I met her, she had cancer. So now my mindset is, God damn, I just met my daughter, now I'm gonna lose her. Thank God she beat it for the second time, right? So I got to come home and try to build a relationship with all three of my shorties. To this day, I'm going on 8 years out. I still don't have the type of relationship I need to have with my kids. One, because I was still institutionalized. I still don't leave. I still won't, in my own house, I can't go in the shower without shower shoes on.
This episode is serious. Like, you dropping some jewels and we all giving informative information. But I got to get on some bullshit for a minute. I got you. Get the fuck out of here. You ain't getting in the shower at your house with no shower shoes
with shower shoes on.
You standing up beside your bed at 9 o'clock?
No.
You doing stand up count in the house too?
When I was in the halfway house, I did. I'm
laughing because this is like some prison shit we joke about in prison, but that's sad,
but
man.
I was man institutionalized.
That's bad, man. And like I say, that was my main thing. I fought that the whole time. I'm not gonna be institutionalized. I'm not gonna be institutionalized. I'm not gonna be institutionalized. That was my main thing.
I think it was different. I think it was different for me because I was actually gang related. And so security, you notice, security was always my thing. Even in the low, security was always my thing.
No shower shoes, going in the shower with your boots on.
You never see me in slides.
Never. And you see me with them on all the time, toes out, everything.
And I used to tell you, man, put some motherfucking shoes on.
Yeah, I used to tell you, fuck you.
And your response was, fuck you, I ain't in no gang.
Man, but you know, like, that's the beauty of this podcast, man, because I can have brothers on this couch, man, and we can go through so many different things, so many different emotions, so many different situations. But, you know, the name of it, I be want to stick to the topic, but it be hard when I just get brothers on here and we just get to really kicking it, because it's like a conversation with my brother.
Right.
So, you know, I got another podcast I'm doing called Worldwide, and that's an expansion of what I really want to do, because I don't want to be based on prison. I want my whole existence in the podcast world be based on prison. So I'm definitely gonna have to have you on a worldwide platform. But for now, we're gonna stick to the My Fed Vacation. So when you left FCI Atwater, where did you go from FCI Atwater? I mean, from USP Atwater.
USP Atwater, I went from California all the way to FCI Edgefield, South Carolina. Now, when I got put in for lower security transfer, they told me I was designated to FCI Oxford in Wisconsin. The day I left, I was designated to Oxford. The warden found out that I was coming there. He sent my paperwork back to Grand Prairie, and they redesignated. By the time I got to Oklahoma City, I was redesignated to South Carolina because the warden didn't want me in Wisconsin.
Because he probably felt you had too much influence in Wisconsin.
One of the perks of me being so high profile in the system was that I didn't spend a lot of time in transit. When I got to Oklahoma City, I got in a cell. They would put me in a cell like 3 o'clock in the morning. At 4:30, they were waking me up. Come on, you on the next thing smoking. Roll it up. You leaving? Like I just got here. Now you just leaving too. So right back into the line, shackles, handcuffs, black box, back on the plane. Went to Atlanta. Atlanta said, don't get comfortable. You leaving tomorrow. I said, the bus don't leave till at least next week. No, you leave you. They said, you leaving tomorrow. They sent the van from Edgefield to come get me by myself. They drove me to Edgefield, South Carolina.
How long did you stay at Edgefield?
Edgefield only did 18 months.
So me being through the system, like I said, I never did no time on the West Coast, but in the East Coast, Midwest, down South. The vibe down South is like totally different. So was that, how big of a culture shock was that for you from going from the West Coast and dealing with West Coast politics to going to a jail, a prison down South?
I felt like I was in the country. Because it was Atlanta dudes, it was Augusta, Georgia dudes, North Carolina guys, South Carolina guys, Memphis, Nashville, Florida, like everything from down south. Everybody they were there, right? And so everywhere I looked, all I seen was gold teeth. Everybody had a mouthful of gold teeth. Everybody had long dreadlocks.
If you read my Fair Vacation, the book, I said that about me getting to Ford City. I said, damn, I walked through that motherfucking door like I done died and went to gold teeth and dreadlock heaven.
Right.
Because that wasn't something, that's not even, me growing up, that wasn't our culture. I'm from Detroit. You see a dude with dreads in Detroit, you're like, where the fuck is he from?
Right.
Definitely not seeing no dude with no gold teeth in Detroit. So that was like something I wasn't used to. Now, all the young dudes are emulating the rappers, so everybody got dreads. And we still don't have gold teeth in Detroit. But that was like a culture shock to me, seeing all these dudes with dreads and gold teeth down south.
Man, listen. When I got home, I started seeing dudes. Things were way different in Milwaukee when I got home than like it was a whole 180. Milwaukee always been a segregated town. So the north side of Milwaukee was always all black. South side was all Spanish. The east side was Puerto Rican and black. The west side was black, and then the outskirts was white. When I came home, and it was gangbanging, right? So the south side, the Kings ran the south side, right? And my brother, we was driving down the street, and I said, man, pull over. He was like, why? I said, man, look at him. And he looked out the window, dude walking with his hat broke to the right. He said, man, ain't nobody on that shit no more, man. Watch, we gonna go down the block. We go down the street, it's another one. Then we go somewhere else, it's one to the right, one to the left. I said, man, what the fuck? He said, dog, we ain't on that no more. That shit's over with. I said, man, this shit's gonna be hard to get used to, man. Because we was on that shit heavy. You know what I'm saying?
So in Edgefield, did you experience like any moments like when you got to the USP in McQuarrie, you seen somebody get stabbed first? You got any of those moments like that from Edgefield that just stick with you that you always remember?
Yeah, one time I was watching a basketball game, and it was I want to say it was Bloods against Bloods. It was the New York Bloods against I think they were North Carolina Bloods. But most of North Carolina Bloods was Jamaicans. They got into a big ass fight right there on the basketball court. They shut the game down, everything. They got this big ass fight. So Edgefield, when they opened up Edgefield, they told the community that it was going to be a medium, but they built it with gun towers. So they had it. All the gun towers was manned with guns. The community found out. They made them shut all that down. But the gun tower inside the prison, they still had the guns in there. So when these dudes got into it, they started shooting into the rec yard.
Live rounds or the rubber bullets?
The rubber bullets, right? And I couldn't go nowhere. It's raining. These dudes are fighting in the rain. I can't run because I don't want to get shot. So I just laid down. But I laid down watching these dudes fight. It's bullets bouncing all around me. Pew, pew, pew. I said, God damn, if I get shot, I'm killing one of these motherfuckers, man. Finally, all these police came and started snatching all these dudes up and locking them all up. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I ain't coming to this rec yard no motherfucking more, man, because it's too crazy. It's a medium, but these dudes are running like it's a full fledged USP. And I was like, man, these dudes here are crazy. Luckily, I only had to do 18 months because I still had low points. The whole time I was in the USPs, I had low points. So when I got to Edgefield, they said, you're not going to be here. You give us 18 months and we'll send you to a low.
So from Edgefield, is that where you went to Forest City at?
That's when I went to Forest City.
The infamous Forest City. You know, and most of the relationships I got, well, the strongest relationships I got come from Forest City because that's where I spent the longest stint in prison at Forest City. That's where I met you. That's where I met T-Mac. That's where I met Joker. Basically, everybody who's been on my show, aside from Street Lord Rook, I met at Forest City thus far. Man, what was Forest City? What was the vibe like in Forest City to you?
Well, I was coming to Forest City on some bullshit because when I got designated, this dude from Atlanta said, big homie, where you going? I said, I'm going somewhere in Arkansas, man, Forest City, Arkansas. He said, oh, my homie over there. I said, who is your homie? He said, Tip. I said, who is Tip? He said, T.I. I said, the rapper? He said, yeah. I said, I'm going to get some money. My mindset was, I'm going to press this dude and get some money. He's a celebrity. He got to pay like he weighed, right? When I got to Forest City, he left 2 days prior. And the only reason I knew that is because Turk was on a bus with me. When we got to Forest City, me and young Turk from the Hot Boys came there together. And I didn't know who he was until somebody in the bullpen asked him to rap. And then our case manager, what's his name? The black dude.
What the fuck was that dude's name, man?
He came.
Damn, I can't think of that dude's name.
He came to the bullpen. Hawkins. He came to the bullpen and told Turk, I got a message from you from T.I. He said, what's the message? And he pulled him out and told him something and brought him back in. And I said, man, who are you? He said, I'm Young Turk from the Hot Boys. I said, with Baby and them? He was like, yeah. I said, oh, okay. That was it. Then him and Mac got together. Him and Mac got real tight.
And that's how I got any type of relationship I had with Turk was through T-Mac. And like I say, I salute that brother because him having some celebrity status, but being released from prison and still reaching back and fucking with Mac the way he did, he get all the respect from me in the world for that. Absolutely. You know what I mean? But, you know, like, to me, Forest City was like the funnest part of my bit, you know what I mean? And it was like, it was a blessing because, like I say, my mom had just passed when I got to Forest City. So getting to Forest City, the environment being changed, and I got to meet Mac, meet you, meet brothers that was positive and put me in a different direction than I was in was cool. But at the same time, I did enjoy the bullshit. You know what I mean? Right. And you know that. Absolutely. You live right next door to me. So I stayed on bullshit. And, you know, one of my moments from Forest City is this. Me and you, we sitting at the computer. And I'll never forget it was when Florida State was doing good, and we sitting there, the game about to come on. And we talking about the Florida State come on, and I'm like, oh! And the Chomo sitting on the computer gonna tell me, shut the fuck up. And remember, he stayed right next to you. And he always had he always was a disrespectful Chomo. You a child molester, you supposed to shut the fuck up. But he was one of them child molesters that thought he was better than us. So he'll always say slick shit. So when he said that, I'm like, man, I'm about to beat this motherfucker ass. And you looking at me like, don't do it, don't do it. But something just came over me and I had to do it. Remember, I beat the fuck out of this motherfucker.
And I said, well, he bought it.
Because what really had me mad was remember, Ma used to play the music real loud at night. He actually had the balls to go on my cell and take my MP3 player and flushed it down the toilet. You remember he did that? He stole my MP3 player at night and flushed it down the toilet. It wasn't proof that he did it, but we know he did it. So that was the main thing on that. Like, man, I got to beat this motherfucker ass. But you sitting there telling me, the look on your face like, man, don't do it, but you didn't stop me,
I mean, one thing about it, I can I can tell you all day long, don't do this, don't do that. But you a grown ass man. You gonna make your decisions. All I can do is offer you a little bit because I don't have no authority over you, right? And mind you, even at the low, I still got the land. So if I tell one of the guys, man, sit the fuck down,
they got to do
they
it.
got to sit down, right? I don't have that authority over you. I can give you advice. Real, don't do that. Leave that shit alone, man. Man, fuck this motherfucker. All right, well, do what you do, man.
Being that you on the couch with me right now, it's another moment I got from Forest City. I don't remember what the fuck either one of us was in the hole for. But I remember we see each other in the hole. You got the long hair. I'm like, what? We in the hole acting the fool in the cage.
I was in the hole because they found tobacco in the warehouse.
Yeah, when you was working in the kitchen.
When I was in the kitchen warehouse.
And okay, now I remember I was in the hole for getting caught drunk on the rec yard.
Right. Right.
So you ended up going home from Forest City.
I ended up going home from Forest City, went to the halfway house, and then got out of the halfway house, started my paper.
So right now, how long you been home?
Free and clear from the BOP since February 26, 2016.
And what are some of the things you've been doing, or what positive you got going on now since you've been home?
Well, right now, in 2018, so when I was in the halfway house, I tell this story a lot because it's very significant in me getting into working in the community. A really good friend of mine, he's a really good friend of mine now, who was a really good friend of mine when we were youngsters. Situations happened where he became an op, and I wanted to kill him, and I had to drop on him. My brother stopped me. When I came home, he heard I was home. He inboxed me, and he said, "Man, look, I know you don't like me, but I just want to ask you about these few people. I heard they're no good. I just want to know if it's true." So now I got a whole different mindset of how I look at people that twist their fingers different, right? I don't dislike them anymore like that. So I wrote him back and I said, "Yeah, all them dudes are rats. They're no good. They all either testified or told on my case, right?" So I sent that to him, and then I thought about it, and I said, "Dude said he knows that I don't like him." So I wrote him back. I said, "Look," I said, and he said, "I know you hate me." So I wrote him back and I said, "Yo, I don't hate you. We had our issues, but I don't look at you or anybody else that way anymore. I see you as a man." I said, "So if you feel like we can try to build something with each other, I'm down. Here's my number." And I sent him my number. He called me right away. And we just started talking. At the time, he was in the process of building an organization called Team Havoc. And Team Havoc is an acronym. And Team Havoc stands for Together, Everyone Achieves More, Helping Another Volunteer or Cause. Right? And so he said, "Man, I want you to help me build this organization." He said, "Well, what my focus is opioid awareness, because a lot of his family was dying from ODing off of heroin, and that fentanyl shit was big. It was just coming in." I said, "All right, cool." I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." So he said, "Come volunteer. I'm doing a neighborhood cleanup. Come volunteer." I said, "Man, I ain't going to clean nobody's neighborhood, man. What the fuck?" He said, "Man, you know how much we fucked up this city?" He said, "The least we can do is help clean it up." And I said, "Well, if you can get me out the halfway house, I'm down." So he called the halfway house, made himself look like this executive director of this organization. They gave me a pass. He came and picked me up. We went and did the cleanup. After the cleanup, they had a little area where they had a speaker and a microphone. They were playing music. and he grabbed the microphone. And he was like, "I want to thank everybody for coming out, all that." Then he said, "But I got a special guest here that I want y'all to hear." And I was tripping because I didn't know who he was talking about. He said, "Man, me and this man were friends when we were in our early teens. We became enemies. We tried to kill each other. He tried to kill me." He said, "But I want him to tell the story." So he called me up there, and I was like, "Nah." He said, "Man, come here, man." So I got in. Now, mind you, in the audience is mostly women that help with the cleanup. So I tell a story about me and him. When I looked, it was probably like 20, 25 women and like 6, 7, 8 men. When I got through telling that story, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Everybody was crying, right? And I was like, damn, that shit touched them. He said, "Man, I'm telling you, man, we got a powerful story. Me and you. We got just me and you." He said, "But you got a powerful story just in your life." He said, "You got to use your story to help people get out of this shit that they in the neighborhood." And I said, "Man, I don't know how to do that shit, man." He said, "Man, I'm going to show you." So he got me into working in the community. In 2018, they came up with this program called 414 Life. And that it's based off the Cure Violence model in Chicago. So I went when I applied, they called me for an interview. And the guy that called me, he said, on this date at this time, come for an interview. He said, "When you come, bring a resume if you have one. If you don't worry about it." I said, "All right, cool." So in my mind, I said, "I'm gonna build me a resume." Now, mind you, I'm at home now. I'm out the halfway house. I'm doing my paper, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking I'll build me a resume. I completely forgot about it. So the day of my interview, I said, "Damn, I didn't do a resume, man. What can I take?" On my dresser, I'm not on my dresser, on my shelf was my binder with all my legal shit, my indictment, my 2-count information, my plea agreement, my sentencing transcripts, my judgment and commitment, my last progress report from the joint. All that was in that binder.
That's what you took as a resume.
I took that. I said, "This is my resume."
And that's what made you qualified.
So when I got, because they wanted people to do the work that were
Experience.
from the
Qualified to do
streets,
it. Yeah.
from the streets. So when I went in there, I said, who did I talk to that set up this appointment?" And the dude said, "I did." That was me. I said, "Okay." I said, "You said bring a resume." I said, "I don't have a traditional resume." I said, "But I do have this." And I dropped it on the table. And when it hit the table, it hit hard. Cause my shit thick. It hit hard. Like, boom. They all looked at it. It was 3 dudes. They all looked at no, it's 4. They all looked at it. What the fuck? And I said, "That's my resume, man." I said, 80% of that is what the government said about me. 20% of that is true. It's on you to decipher what's true and what's not. I said, "But that's me." So as they're asking me questions in the interview, the rest of them are going through my paperwork. They said, the guy, which was the director of the program, he said, "I'm going to call you and set up another interview with the whole panel now." It's like an 8-person panel. I'm like, "All right, cool." So in the time that between that interview and him calling me, my last uncle died down in Texas. And one of his last wishes was that me and my brothers come down and be his pallbearers because he was real close with us. So we in Texas. Dude called me. He said, "Can you come on this date at this time?" I said, "Man, you know what?" I said, "I can't." I said, "I'm in Texas right now, and at that date, at that time, I'm going to be burying my last uncle, my dad's youngest brother, the last one we had." He said, "Call me when you get back in town. No worries. Call me when you get back in town." I get back in town. I called him. I said, "I'm back in town. If the opportunity is still there for me to do this interview, I would appreciate it." I said, "If not, I understand. I blew it." He said, "No, no, 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 no." He said, "Be at this place on this date at this time to start your training." I said, "Huh?" I said, "What about the second interview?" He said, "Man, listen, we talked and we said Your resume, what you brought for us as your resume, was your second interview. He said, we don't need to talk to you no more. He said, you're going to be the face of our program.
And that's the 414 Life.
That was 414 Life.
And now you got a program called Alliance Den going on.
So now
and
me and two other guys that were part of that program got together because we all left that program. We got together and we said we need to do something because we was working with this one school. And when we started working with that school, it was like 27 guys that were supposed to graduate that wasn't going to graduate. So we worked with them that whole school year. And out of the 27, like 24 of them graduated.
Well, you know, man, due to time constraints, man, we got to continue this, man. It's going to have to be a part 2 to this interview, man. But it's definitely been a pleasure seeing you.
Man,
it's
you
definitely
already
been a
know,
pleasure
man.
having you on my show. Again, man, it's definitely been a pleasure seeing you, man. Like, that made my day, you know what I mean? My guy, you know what I mean? But, you know, for the last 15 years, the government knew me as inmate 430-83039, and you're not tuned into another episode of My Fair Vacation.